Hearing script for calendars 2018-19 order. So I call to order the public hearing to discuss and set a start date for 2018-19 school year. Pat, would you call roll?
Lori Messer.
Here.
Derek Gander.
Present.
Jennifer Martucci.
Here.
Deborah Gould.
Here.
Brent Jordan.
Present.
Sheriff Dermott.
Here.
And Jeff Coe.
Present.
Thank you.
In accordance with Missouri law, school districts will post notice of and hold a public meeting to discuss and vote on the district's start date if the proposed date is more than 10 calendar days prior to the first Monday in September. An affirmative vote of a majority of the board is required at the same public hearing to set a start date more than 10 calendar days prior to the first Monday in September. Joplin Schools Calendar Committee and Administration recommends Thursday, August 16th, 2018 as the first day of school for the 2018-19 school year. The action item and drafts of Joplin Schools 2018-19 calendar will be presented for review, discussion, and approval at the regular session following this public hearing. Is there anyone present that would like to be heard regarding the district's proposed start date that is more than 10 calendar days prior to the first Monday in September? All right, then can I get a motion to approve Thursday, August 16th, 2018 as the first day of school for 2018-19 calendar year?
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been first and seconded. Is discussion? A vote?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Be here before you know it. Motion has been first and seconded and voted on. It passed. Now we will close order. How was that? No.
Excellent.
All right, so we'll call to order now our regular session. Pat, you want to call?
Lori Messer.
Here.
Derek Gander.
Present.
Jennifer Martucci.
Still here.
Deborah Gould.
Here.
Sheriff Dermott.
Here.
Brent Jordan.
Present.
And Jeff Coe.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, we'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the approval of the agenda. Report. You have your approval. All right, approval of agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second.
All right, first and seconded, vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and this will pass. So we have the reports, board president reports. We have celebrations today. So the first one, we have the Joplin High School State Wrestling Champ. Joplin High School junior wrestler Jaden Withrow earned a 5th place finish in a Class 4 220-pound division at the Michigan State Wrestling Championship on February 15th through the 17th. With the 5th place finish, Jaden has earned All-State. Jaden lost his first match at the championship, but was able to come back through the consolation bracket, winning several tough matches to earn a medal. Congratulations, Jaden. See here?
Come on up here. Come on up here, buddy. May not be a good reflection. Way to go, Jaden. That's awesome.
Yep, that is it.
All right. So we have now the Golden Apple. For over 30 years, the Golden Apple Awards have recognized excellence in the teaching profession. 40 teachers from Joplin schools were nominated for this honor by students, parents, and peers this year. Nominees are being recognized tonight at a reception held at MSSU. Judging for the Golden Apple will take place over the next 2 months. Awards will be announced on the 101st Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce banquet, April 26th of 2018. And those are the list of those that are receiving those.
It's a good list.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It is.
So we also have tomorrow's leaders today at Memorial Education Center. Tomorrow's leaders today is a select group of 40 area seniors that commit to a 6-day training with area business and community leaders to identify and discuss community issues, leadership, and career opportunities. This outstanding group of seniors spent Wednesday, February 7th at Memorial Education Center for their session, Leadership Development and Community Service. The students experienced a poverty simulation, learned about emotional intelligence, and heard from several nonprofit leaders in a speed dating type session. TLT is sponsored by the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce. It's awesome. All right. So then we have congratulations for Joplin High School show choirs. They spent all day Saturday competing at Carthage and came away with some well-deserved hardware. Touch of Class, which is the all-girls group, won first place in their division. Additionally, Khalees Weathers won Best Female Soloist for her performance with them. That's great. Sound Dimension, which is the male and female group, came in third place in their division, but had a high enough score to move on to finals. Ultimately, they placed as the third runner-up, fourth place, which meant they moved up 2 positions with their final performance. Their final competition is this weekend at Webb City. Go Eagles. All right, so those are our celebrations. We've got the BOE Policy Committee. And Derek, or Brent, do you want to?
Sure. It was actually a pretty short meeting, but we had a couple of policies that we discussed. One that we'll bring forward for first reading later in the agenda. And then the other was policy IGBCA, which is programs for homeless students. We had a minor modification where MSBA's policy typically assigns the Director of Special Services for that program, and our district does that differently, so we just made we changed that to accommodate who we assign for that task. So other than that, that was it. So
Great. All right, let's move on to Superintendent's data report.
And the first of those is school safety and security. Dr. Cicada, we'd had a request to make a little bit more information about that known to our board, so you've put together that for us.
Okay. 4 or 5 things I just want to make you aware of and remind you in this time whenever, you know, it's on our minds about school safety and what's happened in our country. One of the things that we did recently was when we had our safety and security meeting back in January, one of the things that was discussed was, again, about how we're trying to track student traffic when it comes to different kinds of emails and things that are used within our Wi-Fi system, and especially on our school devices. So that continues today. I want to commend the principals and the counselors and everybody in the buildings that are following up on those conversations in real time that day, or contacting parents and everything like that. Anytime we get some type of indication through an email or something where to an adult it might look like, what's this student thinking, we check it out, because sometimes it's a cry for help, and almost in every case it's not anything more than a cry for help, but you never know. So we want to check it out. And we also want to get them the help that they need. So I want you to know that that's continuing on, and I want to commend the buildings for that. Also, Missouri Violence Hotline is on our website. I hope all our patrons know, especially our parents and our kids, know that they can go to our district website, and they can find the Missouri hotline for school violence. It's anonymous. They can leave anonymous information there, and then they will contact the school, and we will follow up. Another thing I want to make sure parents know, and especially our students, is I got a phone call here about 2 weeks ago, and it was a patron in town who was concerned because a parent had called them, and their student had thought that something was happening in school, and they were afraid, didn't know who to tell, whatever. I think sometimes our kids don't realize that they can tell a principal anonymously about something that they see. As a high school principal, I can tell you it's countless information and things that we found out. If there was something in school or whatever that shouldn't have been there, or somebody was concerned or bullying or whatever it was, that we were able to deal with that from an anonymous basis. The kid does not have to. We just want them to come in, be truthful, tell their story, write it down, and we have our ways of making sure that we find out and ask the right questions. So a kid, a student, and a parent should not ever feel like that they can't be anonymous when they come to tell us. We want them to know that. Also, Dr. Moss had found a new training that MSBA puts on called Behavior Risk Assessment Training. And what we've enrolled in that, our secondary schools. And so what we're going to do there is have a principal, a school resource officer, a teacher, a counselor, and anybody else, potentially a team of at least 4, if not 5 or 6, potentially from each school. And we're going to have a training when school is out, I think it's the 24th of May, and that would give us a little bit more insight about teaching the rest of our staff and everything, and what look-fors are out there when it comes to students who are having problems or challenges, or giving us some kind of indication that they need some kind of help. So just doing more on a progressive manner in that way. And then finally, the substitute emergency guidelines. One of the things in our lockdown app that we noticed that we can get our substitutes in the app as far as them being able to use it if they see something on campus that would say, hey, there's an intruder here, can I get to my phone and get a lockdown started in this school, if that would occur. And we're working with the substitute teachers to be more knowledgeable of what to do in terms of our lockout, get out, take out method, which is lock the door, or make a decision to get out, or to, God forbid, have to take out or do what you can, in that kind of situation. But we also want them to make sure they have a buddy teacher, somebody next door that they can communicate with, and make sure that they're fully aware of that and feel comfortable. We're working with, right now, going through the safety audit. I want to tell you that our preliminary indications are showing that we've done a lot of things. Dave Pettit's facilities group and the principals have done a good job over the last year analyzing things where we can shore up little things. And Jim Hounshell did a wonderful job. He's off right now on medical leave, and he'll be back in about 6 weeks. But he's done a wonderful job of collecting information and trying to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned. So that's what I have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Then we have health and dental. Dr. Langford?
Yes, we continue to monitor that closely. Did notice this month in the health claims, it was larger than a year ago, but yet, even though it's somewhat above the where we were a year ago in expenditures for 41% of the year, it's still so much better than it was when you were headed downhill at a rapid rate. So all in all, you get to a point of where people generally maybe their deductibles have been met. We don't know necessarily all the reasons, but we still have a nice fund balance, and hopefully we can continue this year and the fund balance will not diminish and we'll stay in a positive. If you look at the dental, again, it remains very, very strong. So I feel very good about where we are right now as far as the dollars we have in the school district health fund. And then if you look at the next item, of course, is the financial report. And again, I look very closely at that one-page document and just can tell you that the district continues, especially on the expense side, to run well within the budget, which is good, over halfway through the year now, and that
The revenue, there are no surprises yet as far as revenue is concerned that are adverse to the district, and the expenditure side is well within budget. So commended the principals or the directors and principals a week ago in a meeting that we only have so much resources, and the allocation of resources is critically important, and then the control of the expenditure of those is good if you're going to be financially solvent. So I'm pleased with what we see here.
Thank you.
Be glad to answer any questions.
Can I ask, on our dental, our health plan, does the enrollment fluctuate at all? It seems like this might be high or maybe lower than what it has been.
It is lower than it was 2 years ago when you had the increase.
Okay.
You did lose 50 or 60 participants back there. But it will fluctuate from month to month because you have turnover in staff, and sometimes people come and go, and as they come and go, there's always movement. But it is a little bit lower, and it's certainly, as costs increase, it becomes more difficult for employees to sometimes pay for the health insurance. So when it increased before the beginning of a year ago, or the last school year, prior school year, if you look at the numbers, there was a decrease of 50 or 60 people, something like that.
So for our fund balances to be growing so much with less people enrolled in the program, that's pretty good, right?
Well, in health fund, actually the thing that determines the health of the health fund is the health of the participants. And, a few dollars in increase, yes, it's quite a bit of money, but a major claim and multiple major claims are always the thing that drives downhill. And having been involved with health funded programs in my career, I do know that you'll run along pretty good, and generally you will see a dip, and it can be pretty significant for a year, 18 months. But the school health plan back there, when it was really in trouble, it had multiple years of extremely high expenses. So the main thing you look at to really predict what's happening to your health fund, revenue is one side, but what's happening in your claims. And if you look at the claims, I mean, we're talking about, if you compare a comparable time 2 years ago, that number was north of $4 million. And so that's what got you in trouble, or would get anybody in trouble. That's just the way it works. And when you have a self-funded plan, that's the thing that you always have to stay on top of, is what's our utilization. So anything we can do to promote, those who are covered, to do things that relative to healthy lifestyles in their best interest, health-wise, and the best interest of the health of the fund that we use at times when we have issues.
Thanks.
And then the last report you have there is our enrollment report, and that is included in your papers. And some highlights there are simply that enrollment is up 14 over February of 2017, but that's not the whole picture. If you look at ADA, we're trending down compared to this time last year, and that affects funding, and we're watching that closely and making efforts to improve the attendance. So it's important that we get our kids here.
I think it's also important to note that in February, we had the flu outage that we had in October of the year before. So that shifted a little bit between last year and this year.
Between flu and ice and iffy days, yes, I think that has affected us some.
And thank you on the financial statements, and Susan, for those being so up to date and so recent, within the last few weeks. I appreciate seeing that.
All right. Any public comments regarding the agenda items? No. Okay. And we'll have the consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right. Any comment? We'll vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. That is approved. All right. So we're the regular.
Was that motion to approve all the items
The whole
within the
items.
consent? Okay, excellent.
So we're regular agenda. So we got change order.
Here they come.
This isn't.
This is what?
This is a good one.
Oh, it is.
Put them on the side.
Well, first of all, let me say that at this point in construction, as you're nearing the end, that it is truly an exception that the owner, the architect, and the contractor are able to sit at the same table without scowling at each other. So it has truly been a fantastic process. We're hopefully very close to the end, but in doing so, we need to catch up on a few little change order items that we are bringing to you this evening. The first of those, the total of those is $44,772.26. The first of those is a drywall crack issue. That was due to some control joints that we needed to add after the fact due to some unique vertical expansion that we were experiencing in the higher level ceiling areas, not the entire building, but higher level. There's no problem with the base. There's no mining issue. It's just some expansion contraction that we needed to take care of. The mini blind issue was a safety issue in the classrooms that we needed to take care of as we thought of 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds and mini blinds. The two did not mix well where they could reach those. The tack wall is to add some more efficient space for our staff that are working out of offices in that building. Hollis Miller was very gracious to donate some cabinet uppers to us out of their remodeled office, and so in installing those and adding some tack wall, we have some fantastic office space for our folks. The data drops were for the train energy control system so that we can access that and set the building schedules, heating and air conditioning with our system and do that, be able to do that online, and also add a data drop for the cafeteria manager. The Learning Grove floor, which is the knuckle of the school, we needed to do some adjusting with the flooring in that to take care of students coming in off of the playground area. We're installing some walk-off carpet where it would have been tiled to help control some of the foot traffic, dirt and stuff that comes in, as well as in front of that big bank of windows is a heat and air system, which is covered in wood, and so we adjusted where that flooring goes and meets and where those joints are to help, because we've got concrete with wood and we'll experience a little bit of variation in that, and so we're able to better take care of that. And then the downspout is to relocate and redirect some water off of sidewalks so we can avoid any freezing in the future, and to get it more directed to the curb area rather than across the sidewalks. So again, a total of prime contract change order of $44,772.26.
Is that all?
We're getting very, very close.
Okay.
Very close.
Do we have a total?
So,
The balance.
Well, I was going to give it to you after the next.
Oh, we have another. Okay.
We have another change order that's separate than that.
I like the last change order you brought us that had a
I-
negative
I
number in front of
had hoped I
it.
could bring you something even
I like
half
that
as
one better.
nice. And I brought you about half of that, but in the wrong direction. So, but we are nearing the end. With this change order and the next change order that we are bringing to you, I can preliminarily tell you that we are finishing under budget with a final contingency of $133,342.
Very nice.
great.
So do we approve these separately or all together?
Make a motion.
Separate.
You
Separate?
can make a motion to.
I'll move that we approve this change order.
I will second that.
It's been first and seconded. Ms. Burke?
Teasing, yes.
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 Yes, it is so passed.
All right, thank you. The second change order, probably the easiest way for me to explain to you the $3,861.99, and we have Cody with Anderson Engineering here, and this is a change order as a third-party inspection with Hollis Miller. Actually, had we not run into the early issues, we wouldn't be expanding this change order for the third-party inspection. The early mining issues that we took care of took a substantial amount of the original budgeted amount, and so to finish out the project, we are asking for that $3,861.99, and that has included against the contingency number that I gave you of $133,000.
I'll move we approve the change order for the architect contract amendment for the Early Childhood Center.
Second.
All right. It's been first and seconded. Any comments? We'll vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. So pass. All right.
Thank you.
Again, want to remind you of a couple of dates that we will be moving on spring break, moving the early childhood folks. Have them that last week of March to be setting up their classrooms to prepare for students and receiving those students on Monday, April the 2nd. And then on Thursday, April the 5th at 4 o'clock, we will have the ribbon cutting ceremony, and make sure that you know that you are welcome and invited, and we anticipate seeing you there.
Awesome.
Thank you very
At
much.
what time is it?
Looking forward to it.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Well, 4 o'clock will
I
be
got
the
the
ribbon
invitation.
cutting, and then from 5 to 7 will be a public open house.
That's April 2nd, correct?
April 5th.
April 5th.
April 2nd is the first day for students at the new building, and then April 5th, which is a Thursday of that week, is the ribbon cutting.
Looking
Thank you all
forward
very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We're going to miss seeing you here.
Oh, we've got more construction coming. Buildings.
Oh, that's right, there is one. That's right.
Ashley, you ready for the benefits broker services?
Yes. Matt Harding, would you like to join me?
Both have a whole team here, but a lot of illness.
So Matt Harding is the chair of the Health Plan Advisory Committee, and this evening we bring to you a recommendation to engage a group benefit broker consultant to assist us in the process of truly evaluating the options that are available to members of our existing health plan, and also looking at our voluntary benefits. And so, Matt, would you like to share some details?
Sure. With the committee, like we said, it's pretty much the same committee we always had with teachers, classified, certified health, all kinds of retired teachers are at the table, and we've all just kind of sat down and discussed the process and where we're at. And since this is a year for us to kind of renew with our health plan, we were really struggling finding apples to apples comparisons with things. And so really at the end of the day, we realized none of us speak insurance. And so we really need somebody to help us with that process. And we had 3 groups. I guess we had to put up for RFQ for 3 groups to bid on it, to come in, and they came in, and all of them did a great job, gave great presentations. At the end of the day, we were looking for somebody that could understand Southwest Missouri and the uniqueness of our situation, but at the same time really represent us and all of us, every single employee of this district, and find the best plans for, like I said, not just one person, but find the best plan for everybody in the district and what that looks like. And so with that, unanimously as a committee, we voted for Parker Phillips Jackson to represent us. One, the familiarity they kind of have in Southwest Missouri, and at the same time, price. They came in at a better price, as you can see on the back page. And so as a committee, that is our recommendation to, I guess, solicit Parker Phillips Jackson to represent us as our broker to help us through this process.
And the administration also supports that recommendation.
It's just a huge jump
Well,
in estimates.
Yeah, 100,000.
It just,
Different.
yeah, I mean, that's,
That's,
they also do our ancillary insurance, like our dental, vision, like life insurance, don't they? So
This Barker does?
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah, so they're already familiar with the district, and
that's great.
so, yeah. And I'll just throw in, I'm the board representative on that committee, and that committee has worked really hard
They have.
to do right by our employees. I've been extremely impressed with how hard they have all worked, and just everyone, their input, they really are looking out for everybody. So I think by bringing in this brokerage group, I think that's what they're looking for, is somebody to tell us how to do it instead of them, like teachers and principals and staff trying to figure out something that they're not experts in. But, so this has been an excellent, excellent committee so far.
Good.
Yeah.
And this evening, Jamie Brummer from Barker Phillips Jackson is here as well.
There she is.
If you guys have any questions, I'll be glad to answer anything that you have, but I let Matt speak to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would move that we, I'm sorry, recommend or approve Barker Phipps Jackson to serve as Joplin School Group Benefit Broker and Consultant.
I'll second that.
Do you want discussion?
Well, I'd just like to point out one thing, nothing in opposition to what you're saying, but I didn't attend all those meetings, but I did attend kind of on the tail end, and we really felt there were two, all three were quality people. There were two really who had an understanding of Southwest Missouri, felt very good about that. And it turned out to be my responsibility of calling, and actually Barker Jackson, they administer Southwest Missouri Bank, Southwest Baptist University, and also Highland Dairy. And the others we talked to were more of the school consortiums, which are good plans, but we wanted to stay, the consensus was, I believe, that this group wanted to stay with the self-funded plan. And all of those that we talked to run self-funded plans. And so at the end of the day, service was what we were looking to find out, and those folks validated Barker Phillips Jackson as far as the handling of their self-funded plan.
As long as we're in a discussion phase, Jennifer said it wonderfully. I had made a note in my board minutes to commend the committee as well. So I will simply, at this point, echo what Jennifer said, in that this recommendation represents hours and hours and hours of what I would consider really good teamwork in analyzing and looking at RFQs and discussing. And so I feel like this has been thoroughly looked at before the recommendation was brought to the board. And I, too, thank the committee for all the work they did.
They were great. Like they would come up with great points. I mean, somebody would say one thing and somebody else would have a different scenario, and they would bring that up, and it would. There wasn't a time limit on our meetings. There was supposed to be, but there never was, because we were all just kind of passionate about what we were doing, and we look at our watches and we're 2 hours over time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an important deal. It's about taking care of our people and our families, and so there's no time lost when you're taking care of your people. So.
And no one
Please
was
let 'em
just
know.
looking out for themselves either. I mean, everyone really was looking out for everybody else, which was great, I thought.
Well, let them know how much we all appreciate it. So.
Yeah.
I will. I'm going to text and find out where they're at.
So we have first and a second for both?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Matt.
it.
Thank you.
Capital expenditures?
Okay, Dave Pettit's back, and
Always asking
In your
for
favorite
money.
spot, Dave.
All by himself this time, though.
He's on
Well,
stage.
Derek should be up here too.
Yeah. We started working with the principals and directors back in late October, early November, and we went through all the buildings, and we sat down like we did the year before, and got a list of, was it almost 200 wants and needs?
185.
185 wants and needs. And then we slowly whittled those down and worked on things that we felt like that had the most priority, obviously. and did the best we could with that. We also talked to Dr. Moss and Dr. Langford about that, and anybody else in between, and tried to come up with a list that we thought would take priority over things that were in the near future. Also, we're utilizing our new work order system to make sure that we can continue to get our work orders out quicker, but also track places where we've been spending a lot of money, possibly in maintenance costs, and did a good job in the facility office getting that going. So what this represents is a lot of different projects. It's $785,000 for new buses and 2 support vehicles, or 2, I want to highlight a few things. Computers for $500,000, and then $1.687 million for what we would term as just typical capital expenditures that have to do with remodeling, lighting, intercom systems, asbestos removal equipment, asphalt, HVAC units, a lot of big ticket items. We really want to get to look at some LED lights in at least one school, if not 2. Also, this represents a substantial number for remodeling here at Memorial. And the reason for that is we are looking at, in the 2019, in July of 2019, we need to have, is it 4 programs? Yes. 4 programs on our campus that will be moving from Missouri Southern to alleviate some space for Missouri Southern. If some of the public may not be aware, but we have Franklin Tech as adult programs, not high school kids, but adults that go out to Missouri Southern right now. We're kind of spaced out in 3 or 4 different places at Missouri Southern. And because of their space needs, we have worked with Missouri Southern to try to have a suitable time period to get Franklin Tech adult programs over here. It's possible, we're still in negotiations on one particular program, but it's probably going to stay out in Missouri Southern. But at least 4 are going to come back here, and we feel like Mark Lynch and Dave Rockers have come over here and they've really looked hard at our location here with the space we have on first floor here at Memorial, and we want to do some remodeling to make sure that we have keep the charm of the building, but a 21st century approach when people come in and use the facility, or at least come to class, and they know that they're have a quality place to go to school. So that's what this expenditure action item represents in general.
Carrie, is the technology equipment updates, the $500,000, is that the last installment on those laptops? Is that what that is?
This year they're paid.
They're paid.
They are paid off, so is that getting more of those?
This is replacing the equipment that we've kind of ignored for the last, since we've been one-to-one, really. It's the Read 180 equipment, it's the computer labs.
8th grade Chromebooks are in there, I think.
Secretary, nurse, custodial machines, just stuff that's been overlooked because we've been making that laptop big.
Okay, so this isn't laptops. Okay.
One of our goals is to get,
Some of it is Chromebook cards that replace it, so there are laptops in there. So I
But
don't
it's
want to
not
say no to
Mac, it's not another.
Not another
Macintosh. Yeah, okay.
no, and one of our goals with a lot of this, and we talked about this months ago, was the need to be proactive with some of our replacement cycle and planning for and getting things on a schedule so that we can anticipate what things are coming up. This puts us a long way toward that.
And went back and looked at the analysis of capital project expenditures back for the last 15 years in the district. And basically, the amount that will be requested in next year's budget pretty well stays with where it was back in 2003, or certainly within the range. They did see a jump from 2002 to 2003. Computers were not an issue in those days to the extent that they are now, and buses weren't nearly as expensive, but you had older facilities, so you had some needs. And so what I've encouraged Dr. Scata to do, and he and David have done a good job, is you need to be planning so that if there are those dollars available, or reasonable expectation for dollars, so that you can keep your buses updated. You can keep your computers updated over time, and then you can keep your facilities up to date, because with all the pressure the district is under to build new facilities, and the capital budget was being spent, but then there were some things that have been deferred, and so now hopefully they're in a plan to start stop the need to defer and actually get a plan going forward.
Good.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move we
I've got one
approve
more
the,
question, Carrie. On that list, there's the notation for the exit to 20th Street from parking lot A for the high school. Is that planned to be completed before school starts in the fall?
Yes, Jeff, our plan would be that once the board approves the capital outlay budgets, that we put together the bid packets for that so that we can bring that to the board and that they can begin that as early as May, knowing that they can't be paid until after July 1. But our anticipation would be that we could get that completed ahead of start of school.
Okay.
And good question, Jeff. We are a full 2 months ahead. Three months ahead of last year at this time when we were trying to get some things started. So Dave and his team can really get things out on the street right now and get some things going, so we can kind of get a jump on that. But that's a good question. That would help us in that, especially in that particular case.
all right, I'll move that we approve the capital expenditures for 2018-19 budget.
Second?
It's been first and seconded. Vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. So passed. All right, we have the design architect for remodel of MEC.
Okay, well, we kind of gave you a little hint that we want to do something here at the last action item. And to make sure that we do a good job and really get the right design and also try to do it as effective and as efficient as we like to say and within reason, we put out an RFQ for architects, and we had a very good group of architects that all submitted an RFQ. And we looked at it, and we broke it down very, very tightly. And our facility assessment team looked at that, and the team decided that Corner Greer and Associates would be the architect that we would like to recommend to design that the remodel of the Memorial first floor, primarily for bringing Franklin Tech adult programs back on campus, on our campus. There might be some design on the third floor as well, but we would be moving offices that are currently on first floor to third floor. And that's kind of part of this whole deal, but really Franklin Tech itself, adult programs would all be on the first floor.
I'll move that we approve Corner Greer and Associates as the architect on the Memorial Education Center for the Adult Technology Center remodel.
I'll second that and offer some comment that it looks like we had a team get together, about a 9-member team that evaluated the different firms and decided that for this particular project that would be the best group to go.
It's been first and seconded. You have a vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. It's so passed. Dr. Langford, accounts payable.
Okay, accounts payable, of course, you can drill down and see a complete list of all things that are payable. What I generally like to do is go back and see is anything out of the way compared to a year ago, and certainly could not find anything. In fact, we're paying less at the equivalent time than we had to pay a year ago, but of course you have different projects that go on that demand money. But we continue to, as I'd mentioned earlier about the financial report, the district continues to be well within its budget, and the accounts payables that we have are those routine, ongoing things that were intended from the beginning of the year.
I move we pay our bills.
I will second that we pay our bills.
It's been first and seconded. Vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. It's so passed. Budget adjustments?
Okay, last year in March, generally the board approves the budget, and then somewhere in the year you will make an interim adjustment of the budget to reflect things that have occurred, and a lot of it has to do with, you have some, in your activity funds, in your adult education programs, there are a variety of things where revenue comes in and adjustments are made to reflect the increase of revenue. It's intended to offset the with expenditures. We also did a bond refinancing that's in there. We received some funding for from FEMA. Those are in there, which were not at the beginning. So this is the similar process that was done a year ago. We're doing it in February this year instead of March, and then in June there will be another revision similar to this as we, we move to close out this current fiscal year. As you recall, at the last meeting, we discussed the placement of some classroom trust fund money in the capital projects fund so that we could move to get that bond, Bank of America bond money set aside. And I think I gave that to you in the Thursday updates not too long ago, and Susan and I have worked on that to get that done. And then we did do some movement of some funds that were going into debt service over to the capital projects fund. And then next year will be intended, those monies will go into the operations fund. But we placed them there because of capital expenditures. And so this just kind of cleans up some of the things that we've been talking about. Be glad to answer any questions.
Comments?
I'll move that we approve the budget adjustments as recommended.
I'll second.
It's been first and seconded, and vote?
Yes.
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 And if I could, Madam President, since I don't get to talk anymore in this meeting, exercise my...
Your right to speak.
Yes. But as you are aware, but audience may or may not be aware, but to my right is sitting a person who's been dedicated to the school district for about 12 years. To our chagrin, a week ago she told us she'd accept employment with another entity in our community. At least she's staying in our community, and our thoughts was what a loss for us, what a win for them. I've dealt with finance 30 years, local school district level, at the state level, and here in this district. And I will tell you, I understand finance, but I don't understand the accounting systems. And I can start naming the ones that made it work for me. And I would name Susan Smith as one who's made it work for this school district, for those that were in a similar position to that while she's here. And I would just like to thank her for what she's done to help me personally, and I know you want to thank her for what she's done and wish her the best.
Thank you, Dr. Holder.
The truth is easy to tell.
Well, I would just say that this was a hard decision, and over the course of almost 12 years, I've had the privilege to work with a lot of great people, and the school district is really blessed with a lot of hardworking and awesome people who really care about each other, and a board that does too. And so I thank you for that, and I consider it a privilege to have been here this long, and I thank you that I've had that opportunity.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. Are you sure you want to go?
That's what I asked.
We've asked her that a lot.
So you grab her by the legs. She tries to leave.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, so now we're adopting the calendar for the school year.
Okay, so the calendar committee has met many times this year. And Julie Munn chaired that, did a very nice job. And we've come down to 2 different calendars, and it will be the board's discretion which calendar to adopt. A couple of real quick differences. Well, there's only really one difference in the 2 calendars, and one is the addition of a professional development day on February 22nd, and or not to have an additional professional development day on February 22nd. We're thinking the reason that we are asking for the extra professional development day is with the different things that are going on in the district with mathematics and just all of the things that we're doing, phonics, phonemic awareness, all of the things that people are undertaking, is we want to move back toward a place where teachers are having more time to collaborate, not just within buildings, but not just within their own building, but building to building, to grade level, and have well put together professional development that is meaningful and good for teachers. With that being said, that's the only two differences. A couple things I will point out. The parent-teacher conferences are different from elementary to secondary, just by virtue of the fact that the secondary ask for extended time to have their kids longer in a semester, which makes perfect sense. And so their middle school and high school will be in March. Elementary will be in February. But you know how we typically do parent-teacher conferences 2 evenings, and then they take the next day off. They will both take the next day off in the March date after the middle school, and which is the nice thing about that, in middle school, high school, the nice thing about that is it gives teachers the Friday before spring break. So that extends their spring break by an extra day and makes that, you know, if they're traveling or those kinds of things. If you choose the calendar that has the February 22nd, that would be a day without students, but teachers would be a professional development day after parent-teacher conferences at the elementary level. Let me see what else is different. Actually, everything else is the same. Obviously, it's you've already stated the August 16th start date, and the last day would be a half day on May 16th with built-in snow days up to the 24th. Otherwise, with no snow days, it will be a half a day on the 16th.
And the other thing I might add, in choosing that February, I believe without looking, it's the 22nd.
That's correct.
Is for the PD day. That will be the time that we will be closing out the window on our midwinter NWEA.
Yes.
And so we strategically placed that there because collaboration is important, but what are some of the things that we are going to collaborate around? And with a solid RTI process, we'll have that data. I shared that data with you in the Thursday update that shows that we have shown improvement this time this year compared to this time last year, and data is something people have been hungry for. But it's taken us a while to have a good baseline and then an apples-to-apples comparison to put that up against. So with that February 22nd day, it's timed out to include next year's midwinter NWEA results.
Any questions?
I have a question. I was on that committee and I missed the last meeting. One of the questions we had was Franklin Tech. How does this calendar jive with their schedule? Is it compatible? Because that was one of the things that in the past our calendar didn't match with theirs, and so we actually lost some students at Franklin Tech because our calendars didn't match closely enough. So they had input on this calendar as well?
Yes. Dave Rockers was at Dave and
Dave
Mark.
was on the board, was on the committee.
Yeah.
Most of that was due to times more than dates.
Okay.
Because they switched school time, that's when we lost.
Okay. So this works with Franklin Tech as well, too? Okay. I have another question. Which calendar do you prefer, Steve?
I personally prefer the first draft where we have the time to collaborate around NWEA and look at where are we making gains? And the thing about it is it gives teachers the opportunity to collectively come together, and not just within their buildings, but like all 11 elementaries, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, can come together and have conversations around that. The high school still does a great deal of PLC time, and they believe that the time that they need is embedded, but the middle schools and the elementaries have a lesser amount of time, so I'm more in favor of draft one.
Valentine's and Halloween, are
Oh,
those
still
still
half day,
PD
that's
days?
correct,
Okay.
yeah.
And J&EA's here. Do you guys have a recommendation?
Another PD day.
Pardon?
Another PD day, we need collaboration.
I'll move that we approve the first draft of the Joplin Schools 2018-19 calendar that includes an additional professional development day on February 22nd, 2019.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
You all in agreement? We'll vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. So the first one passes. All right, elementary math teacher.
Okay, so this is asking for the teacher manuals for Eureka Math. There have been many classrooms throughout the district, elementary classrooms, who have piloted here's what it comes down to. Eureka Math is predicated on Engage New York. And Engage New York is a fairly rigorous curriculum of mathematics. And we're looking, this is K-5. They have K-12, but we're looking at the K-5. Their curriculum is good, it's well thought out, it's fairly rigorous and looks at teaching number sense and those fundamental skills that get kids, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, really off on a good footing for mathematics. And several elementaries, all elementaries and several grade levels in elementaries have piloted this for the last couple of years. And it came back to me very strongly that those who have been in this are very firm that they want to stay with this and that it's really good. I will tell you that those who have been reluctant to, but change is, difficult as it were. The thing is, once they've got into this and looked at it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is rigorous, but the kids really enjoy this. And it's good and it's difficult, but they're taking it on and doing well with it. And so the resources are here to do a good job to really engage kids in mathematics. So we're looking at adopting the Eureka Mathematics for kindergarten through 5th grade. And we're asking that we get, teachers have requested that they get teachers' manuals, to buy the teachers' manuals, because they have all the resources and everything in it. The curriculum is online and we can get it. What we're doing is, the reason that we're moving away from buying the consumable student workbooks is that not all of the stuff in the workbooks will be used. So it's cheaper for us, and since it's online, it's not a copyright violation. So having put the mathematics in, as it were, towards the money piece of it, it costs the district .003 per copy. And a student manual is $28 per student, and we're using less than half of the manual. So fiscally, it makes no sense to buy those consumables, but to get a group of people together who have looked at what are the things we really need, and then we'll begin the process of copying those and making that stuff available for teachers. They have asked for the manuals, and the manuals are good, and so that's what this proposal is asking for the purchase of the teachers' manuals. I have included on here, if you're interested in looking, it's a report done by edreports.org, which they don't have a dog in the fight, as it were. All they do is they evaluate educational programs. And if you'll notice on here, Eureka Math, out of all of them, gets green. There's green, yellow, and red. They get green on everything. And there are a couple others that do well.
Question.
Sure.
They're 14 out of 14 on almost every item. What part of that is the workbook that we're not going to be doing? What's it look like if we are only doing half the workbook? You said
Right. That's a great question. The reason that the workbooks are very intensive, so for example, if you're teaching number since base 10, and there are 5 lessons that begin the process of teaching number sense based in. Kids may get it in 2, but there's 5 to 7 lessons, and teachers are like, okay, we've got it, we're ready to move on. And Eureka Math will tell you, once your kids, there are screeners along the way that assess their work, and sprints, like quick assessments along the way. And so they will find that if kids get it, move on and forget about these lessons.
So you're not skipping content, you're skipping repetitiveness once the students.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes, good point.
Great.
And this aligns the best with our state standards?
This completely aligns with Missouri. There's a couple little places, like one place in kindergarten, that a Missouri standard that it doesn't exist in here, and it's how to tell time. And I've called Desi and I said, is that telling time around the world? Time, as it were, where are we in the scope of time? Is it telling time on a digital device versus an analog device? And they're like, yeah, when that was in the old Missouri Learning Standards, so we kept it there. But I'm not real sure how that aligns. It's just time.
Okay.
And so that's really, things like that are the only things that don't apply, and it's odd things that are in Missouri Learning Standards. But I will tell you this, once Missouri Learning Standards, once there are the Common Core standards, and when several districts or places moved away from that, and Missouri said we're going with Missouri Learning Standards, about 98% of Missouri Learning, actually it's nearly 99%, it's Common Core.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, everybody's curriculum around the states, United States of America, is Common Core.
They just don't call it that.
They just don't call it that because of the political fodder that was went with Common Core.
But we're not going to tell anybody that.
Details, don't say that.
Yeah, we're not going to tell anybody.
How does this align with our middle school and high school programs?
Very
Because
good.
math is a building block.
Yes, and it does very good. And we're looking at a program to adopt for the middle school, which I'll come back to you next month, that is a perfect alignment for this. And it teaches those fundamental skills in a deeper way to get kids ready for algebra. So it has that same sense of teaching math in a slightly different way. So in other words, when I say a slightly different way, and I've talked about this before, there's the notion of teaching the algorithms of mathematics. And then there's the notion of teaching perceptual mathematics, where kids can take the mathematical notions that they've accrued and do something with it, rather than just, I can do the algorithms of math. So in other words, this gives kids the ability to critically think through mathematical problems like word problems and take them apart and make sense of them. And so really that's what these two programs really do very well.
Awesome. Well, thank your committee for us. I'm sure they put a lot of hours into it.
We started this last summer.
So just a quick question then, you said you're going to bring some more next month. Is there going to be a Eureka History and a Eureka English and a Eureka Reading?
No. It will be
going to be ready for next year?
Yeah, it will be a mathematics for the middle school. The mathematics textbooks in the middle school right now are nearly 10 years old. And they don't match with Common Core or Missouri Learning Standards. There are two programs we're vetting out right now, and it's down to the money piece of it. So they both match perfectly with this.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
I make a motion we approve the request as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been first and second. And a vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. So pass.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing about the Eureka History and Eureka Social Studies for next year.
Eureka.
All right, District Professional Development Plan, Dr. Gilbert.
Okay, that's me again. Okay, so we updated the professional development plan and this has gone through the Joplin professional development team, and Eric Blackford and myself, we wanted to educate ourselves on exactly, so the board adopts a 3-year professional development plan. And so the professional development plan is the outline of how things get done. And basically, really what it comes down to is what DESE recommends that a district does, and those logistical hoops that you have to jump through to make sure that you're on board with this. Just a couple of quick things. The 1% money that districts receive, 1% of their total budget, has to be spent on professional development. And so you can carry over 25% of that. You have to spend 75% of that. Some of the things that are outlined in the professional development plan are things like how do you take care of the mentors, the mentees, and the proteges, the new teacher induction, that kind of thing. And we've really worked hard to make that program super meaningful, super beneficial. To jump off on that for Birdwalk for just a second, I've met once a month, every other month, several times with all new teachers this year, and just surveyed them about their year, how things are going in Joplin, what they would like to see. If you were going through this process again, what would you like to see different? And I got tons of really good information from that I'll take back to the Joplin Professional Development Team as we create Summer Institute this year, which will be that piece, that immediate piece of giving teachers a very deep look at Eureka, how to implement Eureka, and how to really be an expert at that. That piece of teacher induction, there's been, a piece of that has also been of understanding for a general education teacher to understand the special ed process. So we're really going to shore up some of that stuff that we bring to folks. So basically, with that being said, the professional development plan has been updated and we've looked at everything. The committee's looked at everything and understands the charge that we have. And it's a 3-year plan, and it does include the pieces with the cognitive coaching and the adaptive schools and all of the big pieces that the district has chosen to adopt and how they've gone about to do that. So with that, as I said, the professional development plan will be, hopefully, as we gather survey data and ask new teachers and veteran teachers, what kinds of things do you want? Provide that for them. That will be provided on that February 22nd date. But with that piece of looking hard at the data and where we are and how do our instructional practices, how are they addressing all of the needs of our kids? And that the assessment piece then, of course, the formative piece of assessment will be big too. So that all comes from the professional development plan. Questions about that?
Can I just say one thing? It seems like to me for a long time we went like every other month there was some new initiative for teachers to learn and do, and everything seemed to be changing a lot. And it seems like over the last year or so that we've really, maybe two, we've really slowed down that sort of thing, and we're trying to get good at what we currently do rather than trying just everything new. And I think I hope that that's the plan that you have. It seems like it, and I attended that looking at your outline for that day, that first day the teachers were back. That was impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, what you were offering teachers and stuff. And so if that's the way that you're going, then keep going that way.
Right.
So I think that's,
and consistency. That's
exactly.
The thing. To make sure that all buildings, all teachers are doing the same thing, and that gives them all the pieces to collaborate around.
Right. I think it's a great plan. So I'll move that we approve the professional development plan
I'll
as
second.
presented.
It's been first and seconded.
Just a comment, Dr. Gilbreth, I noticed, and I don't know if this is an oversight or intentional, there's representatives from the elementary level, secondary level, and district level of the administration, but you show up as both the secondary and the district level. Is there a middle school administrator that might be able to be included, so we've got somebody that's currently in that area?
Right, we will, and the reason that I was on there double is because last year I served as the middle school principal for the committee, and then I came into this position. So yeah, I'm sure I can talk somebody like I won't say their name, but their initials would be Matt Harding or somebody into.
His nickname, right? is-
Yeah, right. To help out, but yes, we are going to, we've got elementary representation, but we do need to add a middle school person to that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
He doesn't have enough going on with the insurance committee or anything.
You
So.
got to tell my wife, though.
I can do that.
Any more discussion? All right, we have a first and a second. Are you ready for vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. So passed. All right. You're finishing this
Okay.
out, aren't you?
Yeah.
He's got a lot.
Okay, so the Joplin, this Constitution team, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Constitution team is going to travel April 27th through May 1st to Washington, D.C. And the recommendation of this is for the board to approve to pay the amount of the $20,000 to World Strides. I think as we look back through this, and there is some folks here from the
Yes.
Constitution team that would like to speak to this.
Come on up, guys.
Will, would you like to? Tyler Gray and Will Keskementhi, and I'm not sure about this young man. Huh?
Anna Iorio.
Anna, welcome to. So you guys want to tell them a little bit about Constitution team?
Well, first, let me thank the administration in the past for helping us out, specifically Dr. Saketa, who's helped us out in the past. And I will readily admit $20,000 is a lot of money, and I know that you guys have a lot to, a lot of places to spend that money. It would be fortunate if Joplin High School could represent the state of Missouri at the national championship and give these students an opportunity, I would say, of a trip of a lifetime to go to DC and meet some of our leaders. But, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but here are our experts.
Just to kind of give an overview of what Constitution Team is, a lot of people, they go, oh, that's cool, what's that? They don't really know exactly what we do. We started off last year at the beginning of the semester. We were in a class, and we honestly, everybody didn't know what we were getting into either. There are 6 different units for this We the People program. Each unit is different interpretations of or different pieces of how to look at the Constitution, how it was formed, how it's changed, evolved over the years, and what it means now and in the future. And each one of those units has 3 students total. We have 11 students on the high school Constitution team, 11 seniors, so we have to double up a little bit here and there. Some of us are multiple units. And we basically put together a 4-minute canned response for each of the questions. Each unit has 3 questions, just different pieces about the overall subject of those units about the Constitution. And then once we read it down, we talk to it with our professor. We also had Scott Voorhees come in, and he grilled us over it a little bit. That was a little bit intense, but it went well. It was better for it. And then in December, we went up to Columbia and competed on the state level. It's set up like a government hearing, like you see on C-SPAN, the Senate constitutional hearings. They had lawyers and members and history professors from the community come in, and we'd give them our response. The question they picked, there were 3 questions, they'd pick one of those questions, and we would give them our response, and then they would cross-examine us to what stance. One of my questions was on U.S. foreign policy, on what exactly the U.S. should play in the world today, and how exactly we should stay out of, or maybe we shouldn't go. So that was interesting. And then we answered those questions, and then they scored us, and Joplin High School was crowned state championship. And right now, we are working on the national questions, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to go, but of course, we have to raise the funds first.
Well, congratulations, guys. Good job.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Tyler.
I'll make a motion that we provide this funding. Is there any other?
I'll second that. My daughter went when she was a senior, and it was an amazing experience for her, something she'll never forget. So,
That's great.
totally support it.
Great representation.
So we have first and a second, and a vote?
I have some
Absolutely, it's
comments
so
or
good.
concerns.
Questions, yeah.
There's a budget that the high school has, I think it's $4,000 for groups or individuals who qualify for national contests. Have you guys explored that at all, or were you aware of that?
We've had help in the past. Right now, we're having students go outside of the district to the various stakeholders, businesses, civic organizations, to try to get as much of that money first before we put a burden on the district or the high school.
And then I'm just curious, does anyone know how much of that fund is available? Or it might be a Dr. Eggleston question. And there's a little bit of a history to this, and I think, Steve, you might be able to answer this better than I can, but I don't know if it was policy or procedure, but my children have been involved in some state and then national contests, and I know at one time the district didn't provide any financial support, and then there was a time where if you could document your expenses, they reimbursed you, and then they went back to not providing any. And I know last year I had a daughter who qualified for National History Day. It was a great opportunity, great experience, and some of us sitting around the table helped donate to a GoFundMe page that I had started. But my concern is, as a board, I feel like we're picking or choosing who we might support for a national contest, and I think that could get us into some tricky water, so to speak. And so my concern is, I know I inquired about some of these things last year. I'm not sure that there's a policy or procedure in place that addresses how to get funds to organizations like you guys, how much money spent each year, and those types of things. I know we had been offered to have our entry fee paid, but the state of Missouri paid that for us. So we had no reimbursement from the school. But you have so many other programs, National History Day, of course.
The archery team.
Yeah, archery, cheerleaders, band. The list, I don't know, of course, how many that we would send on a yearly basis, but that's something that I think is worth discussion. And I want to fund you guys more than anything. I'd just soon write the whole check. I would if I could myself. But I think we need to at least have that conversation is, are we going to do this every year? Are we going to do it for every program? What's being done? Those are things that I would want to know before I would want to vote for it. So those are some of my thoughts.
And my question was, there was $36.50 already raised, and it says the remaining to be received by April 1st. So is there any number that you're trying to target to raise, and you're asking us to meet the difference, or are you asking for us to take all 20,000? What's the ask here, actually?
Is that question directed to me, Mr. Kaskamethi?
Probably, yeah.
Up till very recently, if not today, we haven't made that direct request ourselves. We would have imagined that the board might consider helping to pay any difference. I think the 20,000 and change was put together knowing what we have right now and what was going to be due. And so if any of you would like to kind of amend the question to have the board over maybe sometime pay whatever difference there might be, we don't have any issue with that.
Any would be helpful. Once again, if we don't, a lot of the time right now is, especially with our parents, looking at them donating the money that, like, if we don't qualify, or if we don't raise enough money this year and we can't go, this money goes to next year's. If they qualify, they go. So a lot of kind of just like close friends and and family, they're kind of reluctant to donate because they want the money to help, us and the people right now.
Sure.
So even if like you could, even if you cut in half, 10,000 to give us more motivation, because right now it looks like a tall order, especially for 11 high school students with everything else going on. I know this next month we're going to present to Daybreak Rotary and Kiwanis, so it's any help is greatly appreciated. We understand there are many organizations that you guys have to look at on sponsoring, but we really want to get Joplin High School represented at a national level. So that's up to you guys.
Should we wait? Or
There's
does
a
is this
motion on the
No, I think
table.
we do that,
need
and
to-
I'll second Lori's
We need
motion.
to vote on the motion, and then if you want to
Because
amend it or bring up another motion.
Or did we
you can.
second it?
I think first we need to
I'll
find out how
second
much the high school has in their budget for this, because there is a budget for this exact thing. And so I think that needs to be explored probably before, I would think that would be the natural course of events in this situation.
Have you been told what your budget is? What, if there's any that the high schools?
Again, I prefer not to start asking for money until things start getting a little tight.
And so basically, you guys are basically asking us to just guarantee it, right, to approve? So if we do, and then you start your fundraising,
We'll keep
it comes
funding, like
back.
even if you
So it's-
approve it, we're still
Right.
gonna keep fundraising and asking other
Right.
people.
Right.
You're actually asking to expend it out of the activity account. That's my understanding.
That has already
Yeah.
happened once
Yeah.
before, at least.
It's just asked for, still, it's within inside the activity account that he has, right? So you're at the high school.
Right.
That's what
Right, and then
that's
what
the
they
ask
fundraise
really
goes
is.
back in
Yeah,
to,
it's gonna
it's
go
just
back
you've got to
in.
pay this 20,000 up front, right? Is what it is.
There's 3 payments.
There's 3 Or by-
payments. There are
okay.
3
By
payments.
April, it all has to be
March,
paid.
April 1st,
Mhm.
and then one more final payment.
So you've made your first payment?
Yes.
Yes.
Already, right?
And it's basically a contract that you're exercising with World Strides for
Yeah,
out-of-state travel.
We have, quite some time ago, many years ago, I had asked if there would be other ways of allowing the students to fly to DC, if we could be kind of in-house. But World Strides has an exclusive agreement with the Nationals, and there isn't any other way. And there is, you go through World Strides or you don't, and then there is a deposit that within the 4 corners is unrefundable. And so, once we start, we kind of have to finish. And yes, if we, fall short, that money would go into the next year's. But it's always difficult because most of our donors like to know that their donation is going to end up with us going. And there's this
So
gray
you went
area.
last year?
We were actually invited last year because we came in second, and our score, even though second, was higher than something like 50 other, they have states and territories, so we won a wild card. But they informed us so late in the season that Dr. Eggleston and I had a conversation that would have probably not been possible.
So 2 years ago, how much did you guys raise to go? Do
We
you remember?
raised all of the money.
They raised all of it.
And I think of maybe the 4 times we've gone in the last 5 or 6 years, there was one outstanding amount we drew from the high school because a couple of donors kind of didn't quite follow through.
So basically, this comes out of the high school activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
But they
are
do
these
a good
assets
job.
available in the high school activity fund? Do we have that much money? We do? Thank you,
Yes.
Susan. I would, I know that there's a motion on the floor. I would like to amend the motion, that it be restated to state that we would guarantee any difference in the $20,828 needed to fund this trip. meaning that we would not be responsible for $20,828, as it's my understanding, the group has already raised over $3,600.
So from my understanding, you can subtract that out of.
And so that would reduce us by that amount already, and I anticipate that the group will continue to have fundraising activities to meet this amount. So my amendment is, again, to meet the difference in the amount of the trip versus what their fundraising efforts are able to meet. It appears that there are several deadlines that they have to meet. $3,600 is due as soon as possible, $3,600 by March 9th, and again on the 23rd with the final payment due by April 6th. And in order to ensure that the group is able to make the trip, I have amended the motion in whatever way I just stated it.
And I'll second the way you just stated it.
Thank you, Jennifer.
And I won't ask you to restate it.
I couldn't if I tried.
So, could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not really supposed to discuss this, but
You may.
to me, the question is, are the payments all from the activity fund, or are we going to dedicate tax dollars to this? That's the question. And then that goes back to Mr. Jordan's concern. I think it's one thing for an organization to come in and seek permission to raise funds for something that they want to do. And it's another question to ask tax dollars to be spent toward, this is a great activity, and the history that Joplin has with this, it tells its own story. So it's not about that, but there are the precedent, setting a precedent of using tax dollars in this way, that's a wide gate. So I guess what I'm saying is I would caution you, and I don't have any right to do that, but I would still caution you. There's one thing of utilizing the activity funds and let the activity account serve as, that's where the money's going to come from. And if you run a deficit, then you have to raise money next year to pay for what we didn't get to get your activity fund whole again.
Yes.
Right.
And not knowing if Dr. Eggleston must have some type of arrangement with Will in terms of how that's going to be done. And in the past, we had arrangements, right, Will, within the activity account itself to take care of that. And it's my recollection that the board was approving the expenditure of funds out of the Joplin High School activity account, not additional budget adjusted dollars for this. However, Brent is right that we could use some money, depending upon how that money spread across through other History Day support for at least part of that, which is in the budget, because it is a national competition.
And I don't know, I mean, there could still be $4,000 in that account. It may be empty already.
Yes,
I mean, because.
And it varied from year to year
So, right,
in the past. There might have been $1,000 left to go towards the Constitution team, depending upon the History Day participants.
I just want to caution one more item here, and that is, I know that we've had other programs who have already competed in a national competition this school year, cheerleaders in particular. My concern again is, do we, if they come to the board and ask for maybe to be compensated for those expenses, is that something that we would entertain? Or I think that's a question also that could be out there. So.
But do we know that they didn't use any money from the activity fund?
Again, I don't know. It's my understanding there's $4,000 in it. It gets distributed. I'm not sure how. I don't even know how to request it. I've asked those questions before, and I haven't gotten any response to those.
I think there's more than $4,000 in the activity fund.
Right, I'm sorry.
Right.
For the National Competition Fund. There's
Is
a
the
separate.
activity fund funded at all with tax dollars, or is it completely out of fundraising?
And there are sub-accounts within the
Concessions,
activity fund. And
fundraising.
it's not unusual sometimes for one to be in deficit and
Right.
that's just the way activity
There's over
funds work.
60 sub-accounts in the activity fund.
Yeah, so in defense of my prior motion, what I'm reading is a request it says that the administration requests that the Board of Education approve this payment. And so as a board member, I often rely upon the administration's guidance as to how I can access these assets for whatever purposes. And I'm getting the feel that perhaps that needs to be scaled back. I need to pull myself back from that prior recommendation. And of course, we're going to allow these kids to fundraise through the school system to fund this activity. Whether or not we can guarantee their trip with other assets within that account that have been fundraised for other purposes seems somewhat arbitrary to me. And it makes me a little sick to my stomach. I don't know that I want to do that. I don't want to look at these students and say, we don't support your fundraising activities for this trip, because we do. And clearly, if you're able to have raised the money to go on this trip, we would allocate those funds to it. And it seems as though we have a little bit of a time deadline, which I assume is the result of having recently won a competition that gives you a window of time to raise this amount of money for this trip. Is that true?
Right.
So it's a very, it's a difficult thing. It seems as though the contract with World Strides is what is critical here, the payment schedule. I don't know what recommendation to offer the board.
Is it an issue at this point to move that you can engage in a preliminary contract with World Strides and commence with your fundraising efforts to secure this trip?
We have already been fundraising for some time, and World Strides the contract is pretty ironclad, is my understanding. It's a contract. And I guess, are you asking what the loss may be if we cannot complete all of the funding and pay for the complete trip?
Not so much in that, but just to hone in on exactly what you need this motion to be so that you can commence with your efforts.
What do you need us to approve tonight?
Well,
Does that
one,
reflect your last thought, Sharon?
My hope is that monies have already been collected, and I think the only reason the $3,600 hasn't been sent out is that will need board approval. I would imagine that high school administrators just cannot be shipping money out regardless of who raised it. That would have been through the students themselves. So if you can make sure that the deposit is approved, and if you can come up with, if we can maybe have a little bit more kind of bilateral discussions as to how maybe the district can help the students in their endeavor to raise the money, that would be fine. And in the end, I know funds are limited, and as I said, it's a lot of money, and if the students can go this year, it would be grand. If it is not possible, those monies move forward to the next year, and I don't think students are going to be emotionally shattered or anything. We all have disappointments, but I guess that sort of thing.
Maybe how about
Beyond
this
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We make a motion that allows us to pay this out of the Joplin High School Activity Fund and debit the Constitution team's account for the $20,828. That allows us to secure the event. If you are not able to fundraise the $20,828, we look at the opportunity for the other allocation, that $4,000 that Brent had shared, and you may be negative next year in your account that you would not be able to, let's say, bring in new activities until that account is paid off. But that allows you to guarantee this year, also allows you to fundraise, plus gives you the incentive to collect because you want to get your account back to zero. Would that, from the board perspective, would that cover everything, and then we're not spending taxpayer dollars if it comes out of the activity fund?
Jeff, this is Sherrick. I'm concerned about allocating money held within the activity fund from one group to another. And that offends my notions of fair fundraising. And so at this point, I'm going to make yet a third motion, and I realize that there are two on the table, which we will vote on later. But at this time, I would move that we approve this group's expenditure of the $3,650 that they have received to date for this event. And in making that motion, my assumption is that that gives them a month. We have another board meeting prior to their trip to find the additional funds to meet the additional payments. And it would seem to me as though I would include in my motion their ability to access the activity fund to the extent that they are able to raise money to meet their next installment payments for this trip, which may occur before our next meeting.
Yeah, it does. That's the concern.
And so to the extent that they raise additional funds, I would suggest that the board authorize them to remit those funds from the activity account to meet their installment payments to World Strides.
Does that work? Yeah. Does that work?
So are you talking about the first payment, the March 9th and the March 23rd payment?
Yes.
Both of those?
He's approving.
Yeah, I mean, if they raise the whole thing, they can pay the whole.
I would suggest that on a typical year that Dr. Eggleston, with the way money is raised at the high school, minimally, those two should, on a typical year, should not tax another account other than what he's trying to raise there for the sole purpose of what he does to distribute money for students, other than, like, for instance, I rather doubt that those first two payments would hurt a nut like the SAD organization or any other organization's fund, is what I'm saying.
But Carrie, I'm not very comfortable as a board member. I see that they have specifically raised $3,650 for this trip. And people who have made contributions to SAD, we would be expecting that this group would then be in some sort of responsibility to reimburse that activity. And if
I don't believe SAD or any other organization. I believe Dr. Eggleston can cover that with what he's raising with pop and candy sales and everything else, at least in the short run.
Concessions.
That's what I'm saying, concessions.
So,
in the short run.
So with respect to those types of sales, are those freely allocable to any event?
Yeah. Yeah. It's whatever he.
Yeah, that's how the activity accounts work.
That's what the activity.
I don't know how the activity
It's like a
account
booster
works.
club kind of account is what it is.
It's money for kids.
It's money, and so basically what he will do then is decide to supplement certain funds or certain activities or certain things for students, or buy meals on trips for kids. For instance, I know that in the past, we would give the kids $50 or $70 out of that activity account to go, just like we would for at least all the students that went on some trip during the year, $5 or $6 for at least one event to go to a basketball game or whatever it was.
And here it's
so he has that freedom to do that.
And that's great. And here it's approximately $2,000 per student.
Yeah.
And so
it's high.
It is high, and again, it will be high no matter what. I think that the question for our group is whether or not we would expect the primary fundraising to come from within that group.
And I think it will. I mean, I think that's what they're saying. They do. These kids find the money. I mean, they're very motivated to do this. These kids work very, very hard, and I'm not saying other kids don't for what they do too, but these kids work very hard. I've seen them fundraise. I mean, I know that the community supports them.
May I ask the group, how long have you been fundraising for this trip?
I would say starting around January.
So in 2 months' time, we've got about $3,650. I mean, how reasonably do you expect $17,000 to be raised in the next 2 months.
Right.
Like you said, that's where their parents start kicking in, because if they see that the kid's really going to go, that's what he was saying, their parents kind of hold back, because you think, okay, if they're going to go, I'm going to do it, but if I'm going to donate it, then, and it's not going to go to my kid, then it just gets rolled over. So you get closer to the thing, the parents pony up, grandparents, I mean, I believe these kids can fundraise some money. I know how strongly the community, I mean, the legal community helps these kids that, you know, I mean, there are other sources that these kids can
Well,
tap.
right now, the last
so.
motion that I made should fail for lack of a second, which is fine. I'm just trying to keep us on some sort of procedural protocol.
Yeah.
And so that leaves 2 motions on the table.
I will second your motion, your third motion.
No, you can't. I just withdrew
You
it
just
for lack of
withdrew
a
it.
second.
But I think this is how the activity funds work, though, right,
Well,
guys?
and it
I mean,
is.
that's what
It
they're
is.
there for.
is. We're not-
I
I don't
totally
think we're
get it, but,
doing
you know,
anything
the structure of this
that's
is
not.
really mind-boggling. It's difficult for me. I actually understand it now, and I appreciate your description of that, Carrie, Dr. Saketa.
Carrie's good.
It truly helps. And I
Sherry,
hope that
can I-
the community understands my difficulty
Sure.
in understanding what to do here.
It seems dangerous to me that we have an activity fund that is arbitrarily distributed to programs.
But,
And
you
I don't know
that's up to the
what those
principal to
protocols
do
are. I don't
that.
think there's any in place.
I think that's the principal's
Yes.
decision, not our, I mean,
It is
ours.
the principal's decision, and the principal, I'll just say this, that, you know, a lot of times, if a club or an organization starts up, they don't have money to buy, you know, all the pretzels they're gonna sell, or whatever it is. And so that you give them that money for a short period of time, and
Sure.
then they replenish it.
Right.
So there's movement within to try to get things started, and this is one of those situations that, you know, Brandon's gonna have to figure out a way to make that up in between, and that'll be between him and Will and the students to.
And I
make sure
understand that.
Make sure that his entry is taken care of.
My concern is if we have 10 groups or 10 individuals or
Right.
10 programs who make it to the national competition and we're only going to fund one of them, I just think that's a slippery slope.
So I don't think we
for the
said we're
school.
just going to fund one.
But-
If they come and ask for funding as well,
Okay, and I'm just using past experience. In July, my daughter went to the national competition. I asked for money, there was no money available. I asked for some of these procedures, and there were none that were presented to me. I knew that
in
was an
July,
issue.
I mean, it may have been that it was.
Maybe
the
the
account was
time of
empty.
year,
Yeah.
too, that you're asking.
Well,
If there wasn't.
you know, I would assume that the students are gonna raise as close as they can get to whatever $1,800 is a student, or whatever that is. That would be my situation if I was sitting down talking to the students.
I just want the board to be aware that there are going to be other national teams that I think that we would need to support their expenses as well. And so this could be.
They're not asking for us to pay taxpayer money to support this. I think that's the difference for me.
That's
and I
true,
think-
it is coming from the activity account.
Right.
But my anxiety is that you are allocating funds within an account away from groups that have been assigned the funds.
No.
I don't think we are in this
I don't
case.
know.
think-
We're
I
not.
thought you said
I-
that they had
No.
accounts
No.
within that
I think
activity.
Brandon, with what he's able to work with, is what's raised in the high school itself from things that is associated with the principal's account. I think he can cover these short expenditures without having to worry about taking away from another one out of what his portion of that large activity account is. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so to be clear, I am incorrect in believing that the fund is divided into sub-accounts that would have to be transferred.
Correct.
These.
Correct. There are over 60-some accounts, and probably one of the largest ones is the one that the principal has access to because of the fundraising that's done with diet sodas and the candy. You know, that's not candy, but it's healthy snack machine, whatever you want to call it. And that's just been going on, you know, for God knows how long. I mean, but so he can help cover that in the short run while these kids raise the money.
Right.
Is really what the plan is.
So it's there and it's not taking away from anyone else. He has discretion with that.
Right.
And they can basically borrow out of his account and then they put it back in.
And so there are,
And
if
he
I
has-
may
yeah,
state,
he
there are
has discretion
two
with that.
motions on the floor, the first of which was that it would be paid for. The second of which is it would cover the short.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure everybody knows where those two are. And I would call for a vote.
Do you want me to do one at a time?
You have to do one at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would ask that be clarified when it says it will be paid for. By what source?
The
From what
activity
source?
The
fund.
activity fund.
It will be paid for from the
If-
activity
If
fund.
I'm looking at this, and
Right.
I had not seen this, actually, the agenda this must have been a late entry, because the agenda I was working off did not have this. But the activity account, many schools, the activity account just operates, it is an audited account. But in Joplin, the activity fund is subject to expenditures to all expenditure policy, that everything. So you have any expenditure that exceeds $15,000 must be approved by the board. And
Right.
I've heard that so
Yeah.
that is why this is
It
brought
doesn't
here.
require 3 bids.
No, I mean,
It's a sole provider anyway.
it's sole provider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you read the recommendation that I'm looking at, the administration, I'm assuming high school administration, requests Board of Education approval to pay the amount, and that request is necessary because of the $15,000 board
Because it
policy
exceeded that.
for all expenditures. And so as I read this, it does appear that the intent, they're asking that you authorize them to expend it from the activity funds.
That's correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so the motion on the table for the first round will be that the administration requests Board of Education approval to pay the amount of the $20,828 to World Strides coming from the activity funds.
Right.
Okay.
So,
The board would be stipulating coming from the activity fund. It doesn't say that, but that's
but
what
we're
your stipulation is.
stipulating. Okay, thank you. So we have a first and a,
I seconded.
first and a second. So we'll vote.
Yes.
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 No.
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 I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
So it is 4-3, so it passes.
Have a great trip. I mean that wholeheartedly. Have a great time.
And we'll keep fundraising. We understand.
We know you will.
that,
Yeah, we know you will. I
obviously,
Mhm.
but we'll keep working on it. We thank you guys for your consideration.
And congratulations on
proud.
your win. That's
Yeah.
great.
Nice job, Tom.
It's a huge deal. You guys.
Thanks for your consideration. Mr. Cascametti will continue to crack the whip.
I know
Yes, you will.
And just let it be known
Have a
that
safe
young
trip.
people aren't the only ones engaged in learning. You saw us learn here this evening.
We learn every day.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And obviously still learning.
Yes, absolutely. So do we have to vote on the other motion? Since that one
It would
passed?
seem to be irrelevant.
Right,
It seems
yeah.
it would be moot.
Yeah, if the first one passes, then.
The second could withdraw, and you could withdraw.
Yeah, I would draw it or whatever. It's
Okay.
moot.
All right.
All right.
I'd have voted no on that too. It was difficult for me.
It was hard. It was hard.
Now we have the declaration of surplus property, music equipment.
Okay, so Mr. Wassner is coming up, and the high school is asking for the ability to surplus some of the instruments that are in excess in their inventory. If you'd like to.
Yeah, I approached Dr. Eggleston about this. If you spend any time with me, you know that I'm all about kids. And then the second thing that I'm all about is seeing stuff being stored that's not being used. And we have a surplus in the instrument room. I approached Dr. Eggleston. He asked me to type up a proposal, which I gave to him. He was supposed to submit it to you, to try to sell some of the equipment to districts that are less fortunate than we are. I've had requests. I get calls all the time. Hey, do you have this we can borrow? Hey, do you have this? You know, we just don't have funds, this and that. And where I where I'd like to loan, I also need to look out for our program. There's things that we need as well. And so I would like to take some of the surplus that we have, sell it to those districts, and then in exchange reinvest that money back into the band program. Not neglecting any of our middle schools. If you go into any of our middle schools, you'll see a lot of JHS cases, loan a lot of things to them as well. So I don't want to, I'm not going to neglect our own students, but more try to help us.
Well, you just addressed the concerns I had in reviewing this earlier today, and that is, I'd hate to get rid of an instrument and then need it next year. And so it sounds to me, I was wondering what the proceeds would be used for, and you answered that as well, to buy instruments that we don't have and need. And so for those reasons, I would move that we approve this request.
I would second that.
Discussion?
I'd like to have a bassoon.
You see the price
before you sell.
You see the channels how to go through there, right?
I know that they're very expensive, but I've always wanted to play it.
You can bid.
Just ask if you can go play it before he sells it.
So we have first and a second, we'll vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. So pass.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was easy.
Okay, we want to talk about more surplus.
No, we don't.
We have looked at some of the properties we had, and we've had some discussions. The old South Middle School property, the old Emerson Elementary property, and also their adjoining lots next to each one of those properties. And as you can see on your sheet there, we have minimum bids set for all those properties. And we would like to have the authority to advertise these as proper as we have in the past and put these out on the street for people to bid, to submit bids by April 12th at 1 p.m. And hopefully we'll get all of them sold.
So again, these were the appraised values or something, or how do they just?
These values were arrived at, we looked at appraisal from the Irving property,
Mhm.
and then we looked at a lot of different properties.
Comparative sales analysis type
Comparative,
thing?
yeah. And then we looked at the neighborhoods and all the different things that's going on in the neighborhoods in terms of where property values are, and that's how we arrived at these.
Well, I would move that we declare these properties as surplus and authorize publication for the sale as described in this document.
I'll second.
Discussion?
What are we going to do with all those prom dresses?
What are we going
Can
to do with
we-
all these what?
What did you say?
That's the next item.
Can we add
So that was not included in that one, okay.
That was
Can
not
we-
included in that
I
one.
didn't say anything.
Is there a reason? Can
Did
we-
you say prom dresses?
Can we combine them?
Prom dress.
Can we combine them, or do they have to be separate?
Okay. I don't get it.
What's that?
You'll get it in the next item.
She's
Oh,
saying
the
that you can combine them in the
Can we
sale,
combine
if they
them?
want to buy all of them.
Well, they would have to put it, like if,
bid for each.
if you wanted all those, like South Pearl and South Wall, you'd have to, you have to bid on them separately. You have to hit the minimum bid on all of them. So I guess somebody.
I mean
I
the
think she's saying
motion.
both motions.
Can we do
Oh, I'm
Duquesne
sorry.
and, can we
I'm
do
sorry.
Duquesne
Duquesne.
and South and Emerson at the same time?
I'm
is all
sorry.
saying.
Yep.
We're running late here.
Oh, is that the next one?
Need to go to bed.
I'll second that, if you're making a motion.
Did someone make a motion?
Well, do we have to pull the other motion off?
Do we need to talk about Duquesne?
Huh?
No.
Well,
Can we?
I'll just run the vote real quick. We
And
spent
run
much
just
all-
time.
bang through it.
Okay, so the first is the lots adjoining south?
It's all of them
No,
on
it's
that.
All of them in
Now,
this.
the next one, number 14
Oh,
is
and
Duquesne.
Jeff seconded.
Could we not combine 13 and 14?
I see what
But
you're
that's
saying.
all
Well,
right.
let's just
could.
go through real quick. We have a motion on the table for 13. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yep.
I second.
Wait, Jeff already seconded.
Oh, Jeff
I'm sorry.
seconded, I'm sorry, didn't hear you.
That's okay.
All right, discussion, then vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. So passed. Then 14 is the declaration of the res,
This was
or
Duquesne.
Duquesne School.
And again, was this thing appraised?
No.
Okay. That's a really tough one for us as a board to figure out what it's worth.
It is tough, and we also looked at, you know, the different options. What was the value of that property with the school on it if somebody wants it, and what is it if they want to take it down? And it would be an extensive
And
cost. to
it's
take
my
it down.
understanding that that building is in disrepair and would be in need of significant investment to,
And the asbestos removal and things like that, it'd be expensive.
Yep.
well, for those reasons, I would think that the minimum bid of $60,000 is a reasonable start for the school district. And based upon that, I would move that we declare Duquesne Elementary School as a surplus property and authorize publication of the sales described.
I will second that.
Discussion? Vote?
Yes.
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 We will find a
Yes.
You don't sell it?
So pass.
We're using it.
So we have the AT&T cell tower lease.
Okay, we've been approached by AT&T to have two different of our properties be the place for the placement of towers. And we have worked with AT&T to come up to an agreement of $800 per month with a $500 upfront for the rights of the property. And then also the option to go ahead and extend those for 4 or 5 year terms with a 10% escalator on it, and then also use industry standards to make sure that the placement of those towers are proper. We're ironing out the final details of the contract, and we're very, very close on that. What's left on that is just very minor details, but we'd like the approval to, once that's completed, to go ahead and have that signature by Mr. Cope approved and be able to be signed.
I would move to approve the AT&T cell tower lease.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been, any discussion? We'll vote?
Yes.
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 Yes, so passed.
Okay, the next item is broadband service at the high school, and these are all things that Eric can probably tell you a little bit more about real quickly, and if you have any questions. Eric, anything you want to make sure that they know up front?
We're just targeting, we've done the elementary and the elementaries and the middle schools. Now we're targeting the high school. These are switches that we put in after the tornado, and they were to the lowest bidder, and they haven't really worked out that well. We have a hard time configuring them or replacing them, and they're limiting our ability to image machines, the number we do at a time, so it's taking us longer. And also when we do laptop checkout, it's been turning into several days event instead of just handing them and then they set up and go. And then also pushing out updates throughout the year. These switches are very limiting, and they cause us our bandwidth to clog up and stuff at the high school location. And so that's why we saved them for last, because for day-to-day operations, these switches are working pretty good, but we do have some problems with them. So now through the E-rate, we're looking for the government to fund 80% of this replacement versus, we paid the 20%. And everything we've replaced, we've seen improvement across the board with testing and everything, so this is the next step in that. So.
And this is within your 2018-19 operational fund budget?
Yes.
Thank you. I move that we approve the purchase of the E-rate action items.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll second. All right. Jinx.
First or second? You have a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, let's vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Passed. Chromebooks.
Okay, Chromebooks for Jefferson Elementary, the purchase of 52 Chromebooks and the management license and 5 charging carts. Eric, anything on that you want to add to?
This is through the Title I for that school, so that's what's put in by the principal, and they're using this to bolster their device count.
I would move that we approve the purchase of the Chromebooks for Jefferson Elementary for $21,411.
I'll second.
A bit of discussion, there's a third vendor on there whose bid was slightly lower. Is there a reason we're taking the middle bid? It may not have included something. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
It says down here, they did not include Google Management
Google
License and
Management
Accidental
License.
Forgiveness Warranty. It says
Thank
down
you, I
underneath.
apologize. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I should have read that. Thank you. Go ahead. That's it.
All right, so we have first and a second. We'll vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, so passed.
Thought I saw it, I couldn't find it.
Okay, and the last one is Chromebooks for all of the 8th graders. As you know, we've had iPads in the past, and Steve could probably talk to that a lot better than I could that's the 8th grade level. And Eric's done some extensive work in looking at the Chromebooks, and I think there's a lot of support for that, and I think we're excited about seeing how that's going to work, at least at one grade level, to see if we have the same kind of luck that a lot of these other school districts around us have had and went to Chromebooks totally. So we're excited about being able to pilot that program with the students, and I think there's some energy going with some of the teachers, especially learning some of the apps with Google and everything else. Anything you want to add?
I know, the reason that we went with this bid, because they've also included accident protection, which will include liquid spills, dropping it off of the desk, and any kind of electrical damage where stuff just shorts out, that they're willing to replace the Chromebooks for that, because that was one of my biggest concerns, because going like the MacBook Air that we currently have versus the unibody that we had, the plastic body really wore out, and that's kind of what the Chromebooks have. And so these will be in cases and everything, but with this accident protection, I think we'll get the 4 years out of it that we need.
Will the students see a drop in the fees for the insurance?
That's something we still have to discuss yet. We haven't discussed that.
Again, this appears to be in this year's operational fund budget.
Yes.
Does it require a budget adjustment?
Yes.
So we need to get that into the motion.
Is that not part of that 500,000?
That was the one it was on the one we approved, wasn't it?
That's next year.
That is next year.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, this is this year's.
So Title I gets reimbursed, right?
Yes.
This is not through
This is
Title
not.
I.
Oh, this is what you're talking about.
The 8th grade ones are not Title I? Okay. All right. So can we approve it
What
without?
is the amount of the adjustment to the budget, the full amount of the purchase price? And how do we feel about that? Can
Where's that
somebody-
coming from?
We feel like that it's doable, in this year's budget.
Where does
Alright.
it come from? Does it come from reserves, or does it come from somewhere else?
It will come out of the operations budget. You'll make that a budget adjustment. At the end of the year, the fund balance would, if we didn't do it, the fund balance would be that much greater. If we do it, it'll be that much less. But we still are anticipating a positive fund balance this year.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We need to know.
Thanks, Susan, for that.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks for asking.
Quitter.
Parting shot.
Did I say that?
Out loud.
A reminder of why we need her and she is valued.
Well, this was discussed 2 or 3 months ago before it went out to bids.
Yes.
She pointed out, and I remembered us talking about it, but she said that needs to be included.
Brent, don't say that.
Very good. All right. We're
To
getting
work on
delirious.
somebody's filter.
We're getting delirious.
I
That
would
side of the room.
make a motion to, as stated. Eric.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. Let's vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, so passed.
Oh, 2 more.
Okay, we got final reading.
Yes, you have a couple of policies that Brent alluded to at the beginning of our meeting, and you'll notice that they are for first but also final reading, because these are time-sensitive and necessary to make sure we are compliant with our programs for homeless students and the federal and state requirements.
One quick question. the policy committee review 19 and 20?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve 19 and 20 together.
I'll second.
Discussion? So vote?
Yep, yes, sorry.
Yes.
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 Yes. So passed.
Awesome.
Pluses and deltas. We made it.
It was a long agenda, but we got through it. I've made some notes of some follow-up, and I think my delta may be Susan's plus, but just that we have to say goodbye to Susan, and that's my delta tonight.
That's a big one.
That is.
I would like to,
I've got a plus. We had some discussion where there was some difference of opinions, and we were able to express our feelings without emotions and try to work through and follow parliamentary procedures. Thank you, Sharon. So I think that we all want to encourage our students to do as well as possible and find a way that we can encourage our students, plus also safeguard our resources. So I think we did a good job all looking at that and being thorough.
And then I just want to recognize Debbie Fort, who's running for Joplin School Board that's here. So.
Hey, Deb.
and I would like to thank Dr. Saketa and the rest of the administration for finding ways to make money for our district when possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Referring to our new cell towers.
Carrie's thinking, what did I do?
The big announcement, I think, that Dave made was for the ribbon cutting. And then we spoke earlier about honoring our retirees later in the year, so we need to remember to keep those dates on our calendars.
Great. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Vote?
We need discussion?
Any no discussion?
Need a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Yes.